The latest opinion polls in Colombia suggest a large majority of people back that dialogue. Let's expand on the obstacles involved now. Earlier, I spoke to Javier Ciurlizza. He's the program director of the Latin American and Caribbean program. And I asked him about the developments in those talks, notably the recent agreement reached on land reforms.
Well, the agreement on the land has meant a significant achievement in a very difficult process, which has a very good chance to put an end to the oldest armed conflict in the world. We don't know the exact terms of the agreement because the parties agreed at the very beginning that no partial accord would be published before the end of the negotiations. But what we do know is that there has been agreement in the headlines on how to redistribute land to the poor, how to restore order in the rural areas, and how to tackle the root of the conflict, which has been a dispute over land property and land access.
Can you talk to me, though, about the farmers and the activists? What's being done to keep them safe?
I'm sorry, I lost that. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What about the farmers in all of this and all the people that want to go back to their farms? It's great if there is an agreement, but what will be done to keep those people safe from fear of being killed for going back?
Well, actually, that's a key question that would need to be answered once the implementation of the accord is in place. It's too soon to say how safe it is to return to the land that has been expropriated for decades in a country that has suffered endemic violence in the rural areas. Actually, we have an example. After the demobilization of the paramilitaries, thousands of people were invited by the government to return to the lands, and many land activists were killed, others were threatened, and other expropriations happened. So these kind of difficulties will be faced in the post-conflict scenario. However, we think that today the Colombian government and FARC have enough political will, leverage, and resources to prepare a more secure return of the peasants to their lands.
I'd like to get your thoughts on the peace negotiations at this point. Are you optimistic, or do you think it's taking longer than you thought? Do you think anything will be signed before next year's presidential election?
That's the 1 million question. I mean, time is very tight, and there is still 5 significant and substantial points to be agreed. 2 of them are particularly difficult. The one regarding whether there is going to be prosecutions for the thousands of crimes that have been perpetrated during this conflict of more than 50 years. And the other is how FARC will reintegrate into the political life as a political party. Those are not easy things. So the parties would need a great deal of imagination and flexibility to achieve the end of the conflict by the end of the year. Actually, there are 3 main difficulties that the parties will need to face from here to December. The first is how to balance the need for peace with the need for justice. There are thousands of victims that are expecting prosecution of the most responsible. For that, the government approved a legal framework for peace as a constitutional reform that provides mechanisms such as selection and prioritization of the most serious cases that would be prosecuted. However, we still don't know how this is going to be balanced, who is going to be prosecuted, and which kind of penalties are going to be imposed. The second is that we are talking to reintegrate a guerrilla that have spent 50 years in very isolated areas with very small preparation for the political life. So this will require a kind of re-education of the guerrilla in order to participate in democracy in Colombia. And the third is that it is a reality that FARC does not enjoy a wide support of Colombians. It has been a minor guerrilla in terms of political presence, and it will have difficulties to find a popular support that is, as you know, essential to participate in the political life, to win seats in the Senate, in the Congress, to have mayors and governors, as has happened with previous guerrillas.